it's Lisa, continuing on with summer. Summer's almost over, but I don't think this project is going to end with the end of summer. I've been trying to use a lot of things out of my stash, and today I just pulled out a bunch of different things, especially out of these little drawers, because I'm thinking about using these for something else. This is one of those little drawers. I got this last one, I think, at Walmart. I think I got my original one at Sears in the tool department. That's supposed to hold small things. And I'd like to clean some of these out that just have stuff in them, like these things, that little clips that I've had forever and ever and ever. So just a lot of odds and ends. And I pulled out a few other things that I haven't used this summer. Some of them are fairly new items from perhaps orders this year, and some things like some of this chipboard that I have had for a long time. I also got out my die cut book that I had made and looked at some of the different die cuts that were in here, things that I had made, things that I had purchased, and just kind of browsing through and seeing what I might want to use. And this is unusual. Normally I start with my photo and my story. Well, nothing really jumped out at me that I particularly wanted to use, so I went back to the photo and the story. And I found this photo, and at first I thought, okay, I know when this was, or I know where this was taken, but I don't know when. And we made a lot of trips to this particular location. My parents had a vacation condo for many years, and this was taken there. But I happen to have dated the back of it, and that's really unusual for me. I almost never dated my old photos. But because of when this was dated, I know exactly what was going on this weekend. This wasn't just an ordinary weekend for us. This was the start of my husband being, who wasn't my husband then, but he was going to be away for 6 months on a contract. So it was really a lot going on that weekend, and so there's a whole story to tell behind that. And it led me to a bit of a travel theme, which led me over to these little elements that I'd created when I created this die cut book. I had these fun brads from Basic Gray that I wanted to do something with, and I actually learned to create these little embellishments in a Chamel class a long time ago, where she had us take maps and punch them and then layer them. So I created these embellishments, but I hadn't done anything with them. So I want to use these, and I want to use the photo, and I think I may actually use some of these, because especially this yellow one goes in color. And it says home, and that's really important, because even though these are travel, home is a real key piece to that. I'm not going to end up using a whole lot of things here, but a few things from my stash. I have some old chipboard letters that I can work in, and some stickers that I haven't used in a while. The sketch is going to have a single photo, and it's going to have these 3 elements on it. Probably stop up here, and then the light, and then go with the bottom, because it's all about this transition of what's happening here is we're spending the weekend together, and then I'm going to go back home, and he's going to go on to Texas and work for 6 months. I'm also going to be using a stencil, and I've been wanting to do something with this stencil on a full page layout. It's the Stripes Explosion stencil from Crafter's Workshop. It's not that old. I think it came out beginning of the year or maybe last year. But I'd like to do something with this, and I thought this would be a good base for those embellishments. So I have some mists, and all this started with just, you know, finding one thing in my stash that I hadn't used and sort of building from there. So I'm going to clear all this out, and we'll start doing some misting and getting this page pulled together. So I'm going to lay out where my embellishments are going to go, and this will help me know where to put the stencil, where to do the misting. Making sure I've got enough room for my design. And I'm just going to mark with a pencil the center spot. The center will actually be covered up by the very center of the stencil, but it wouldn't matter because the embellishments are going to go over the middle too. Now, this stencil has this border around it, and I don't want that border to show, so I'm going to create a mask to go over it, and I'd like it to, it's going to be round, but I'm not cutting it with a circle cutter because I want it to have a real rough edge. And this is my first effort, and I got it too big. So I have to go back and try it again. So I'm just going to take the first one that I did there and tear it down until I get a size that's close to what I need. And I have one side of it there about the right size, and then I can just sort of mark on my paper. It probably would have been better to have marked the first go round, but this way I will get a good size and shape, and that's going to be a nice mask for my stencil. And I want a pretty rough edge, so I do a little playing with it here. And now we go over to the misting box, and the first color up at the top is going to be red. And I can see in the video that I got a little more off center. I didn't realize that when I was doing it, that I didn't quite have it, the circle centered over the design. But it still gives me a nice effect with the sort of rays coming out there from the middle. Now, starting with red, I am going to need to clean this stencil off a bit. I sort of press it over on some scrap paper and then wipe it down. And I'm lining it up on the next little pencil dot. And then this one is going to be the yellow. And it goes off the page a little bit, which is fine. This is Studio Calico Mist. I think it's the double yellow one. And the one at the top was, I'll have to put it on the screen. It's a very, very bright red, I believe. I've had for a while. I haven't used it a lot because it is such a bright red. And then at the bottom, I'm going to use an October Afternoon Green Mist from the Boarding Pass collection. And that gives a nice even coat. It does kind of spray under a little bit, but I thought that was a nice effect. So it gets sort of a soft border around each of those little starburst kind of designs. So that's in general how things are going to look. I've just got to work out my title down here. And I'm using some old chipboard. This is from Basic Gray, some raw chipboard that they sold several years ago, and I loved it. And I've used and used and used out of these sets, but they are starting to wear down a little bit here. The T, I think, came from some Stampin' Up! Chipboard because I didn't have any more capitals in the Basic Gray stuff. And I've decided I think I'm going to paint those black. So I just got some black craft paint, and working with something like this, I find that using tweezers helps a lot, so you don't quite get it all over your hands so much. And when I paint chipboard, I like to get the edges as much as I can. So I got all this painted and dried, and I've typed up some journaling, a little at the top and a little at the bottom. And another thing out of my stash is this really old, not really old, but maybe a year or two old, My Mind's Eye 6x6 pad that has some good colors in there, so I can do a little bit of matting with the photo and edging the paper in some gray ink from Stampin' Up. And I have my marker here to do the edges around some of the letters. The black paint where I didn't quite get all the, everything painted black, a black marker will fix that up, so I don't have to mess with the paint anymore. And then I can glue those in place. Now up at the top, I'm ready for my stickers, and I had some gold stickers out there earlier, and I completely forgot about. I covered them up with other stuff on my table. You ever done that? You get something out to use it, and you just forget about it because it gets covered with other pieces of paper and things. So I found them later when I was cleaning up, and then I saw them at the beginning of this video. So I used red letters instead of gold letters to say next stop and Texas. So here's our finished page. And we'll see our sketch. We've got our 3 embellishment groups and the photo in the middle with the title and the journaling divided across the page. It's a simple page, but with the embellishment groups already constructed, it went together pretty quickly. And I like the soft edge on those misted elements. So you've got something that anchors the embellishments, but it doesn't really take over the whole page. And it does advance the story because it's from the stop to sort of the caution to go, because it took me a while to get used to the idea that my husband was going on this long contract. He's was a contractor for years, but this was the first time he was out of town for an extended period of time, and we were about 3 years into our relationship, and it was a lot to adjust to. So anyway, that's my page. Thank you for following along, and I hope you will check out my class, Scrapbooking with Stencils. Check out my blog for more information.